5:59.
Excuse me.
I got 6:02.
I will too, but Ingrid had to go, I guess, turn on the camera. Okay. I now call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Have a motion and second. All in favor, raise your hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Next is recognizing for visitors for comments. I don't believe we have anyone wanting to speak to the board tonight, so we'll move on to Superintendent's Cabinet updates. First is Office of Operational Services, Mr. Budensee.
Good evening, Madam Chair North, Vice Chair Brown, Dr. Oates, this thing is me. Dr. Oates, Superintendent, board members. First of all, Merry Christmas to each of you. It's be our last time to speak this year. Happy New Year to you. Happy holidays. And I have two brief action items this evening to bring to you from my division. The first one is the superintendent will recommend that the Rockdale County Board of Education approve the purchase of two 23 Ram 1500 Tradesman 5.7 liter trucks from Ginn Motor Company for $39,675 per truck. Total cost of $79,350 through the General Motors fleet account number 829547. These units will be ordered upon the approval of this action item. The reason is in 23 budget, we added two facilities department, a GM1 and GM2 persons to our facilities team. And so we require expansion of our fleet service. The initial assignment of these units will be to management team members, and the service trucks will be equipped with utility beds and be assigned through our roll down vehicle assignment process for a total of $79,350, and that will come out of East Splost 5. The second action item is a request from our Rockdale Fire Department. The superintendent will recommend that the Rockdale Board of Education donate bus number 0003, VIN number IHVBGAAN 5YA 025691. That's a 2000 International Amtran 72 passenger unit to the Rockdale County Fire Department for uses by their training team. This unit is no longer operational for us for pupil transportation due to obsolete parts and cannot pass the state annual inspection for service. Rockdale County Fire Department has requested a unit to replace one that we approved for their service, a 1980 bus about 20 years ago. And that concludes my action items. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Next is Office of Financial Services, Mr. Keith Hull.
Good evening, Madam Chair North, Madam Chair Vice Brown, Dr. Oates, members of the board. I'll be going over the preliminary financial reports for November. The revenue for the month of November is 18.9 million, 58.4 million year to date, which is 32.3% of our budget. Last year we received 20.8 million, 59.9 million year to date, which was 35% of our budget. Expenditures are 15.7 for this November, 76.2 million year to date, which is 41.3% of our budget. Last year we expended 14.5 million, 70.2 million year to date, which is 40.9% of our budget. Our outstanding encumbrances are $2,431,197. Assets 27.3 million approximately. Liabilities 6.5 million approximately. Those are our third-party payments that will be cleared up at next meeting. And our fund balance of 20.8 million. Our fund balance at the end of November is 20.8, and last year we were at 18.6. Oh. And I do have one action item for you. It's the second semester fundraisers. The superintendent will recommend that the Rockdale County Board of Education approve the FY23 second semester fundraisers as presented. This recommendation is in compliance with Board Regulation JK-R. Our tax revenue has started coming in. The numbers were a little bit lower in November from prior to November, but I expect that for December to be above what we were. So we'll keep an eye on it. Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Have you seen any increase in the amount of tax revenue we're getting from the sales tax with the opening of like the Northern and the Academy and all of that?
SPOS funds,
Mm-hmm.
well, yes. I mean, overall, the SPOS funds the collection is like 120%. So
Okay.
we're going to be collected probably 8, 9 months earlier than expected. So yes, I mean, like I said, the collections are really moving on. So we will be, going to SPOS 6, and so we'll have to take all that in consideration.
And Keith, as a matter of fact, the meeting projections and exceeding projections has been a phenomenon throughout the life of our eSpot.
Correct. It actually started that way pretty quick after we started, and it's been running over schedule all the way up. It just kind of keeps ticking up a little bit more. So that does show a little growth going on too as well. And inflation, inflation's in there too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is superintendent's updates, Dr. Rhodes.
Do have a few items, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, board members, executive cabinet members, and our security personnel and staff. So the legislative priorities are one of the action items indicated this evening. And certainly I know that the board, you have and you will be reviewing those further. And that links to our legislative breakfast is scheduled for next Tuesday, December 13th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here in the boardroom. I will be sharing in tomorrow's board brief all of the legislative breakfast documents to include the agenda, the tabletop discussion groupings, and I've tried to accommodate requests to the extent that I've received them in advance. And if you have any questions about that, once you receive those tomorrow afternoon, you certainly feel free to contact me. And we will have 2 special guests, and that's something we began a few years ago shortly after I came aboard, in addition to the engagement with the local legislative delegation and our board members and executive cabinet members. We like to bring in persons with specific expertise who can share important information on other matters. So we will have someone from the United States Department of Education, Valerie Williams, who is the director for the Office of Special Education Programming, who will join us remotely from Washington. And of course, I've shared that one of our federal legislative priorities is more robust funding of IDEA. And she's the right person to be talking to. I want to thank and commend Dr. Smith-Dixon for her support in securing Ms. Williams, who's a colleague and of hers, and she's worked with over the years. And also more closer to home, Matt Jones, who is the Chief of Staff for the Georgia Department of Education, and specifically Superintendent Woods, has accepted my invitation to join us to talk about Superintendent Woods' educational priorities in his 3rd term. Particularly with the disproportionate focus on accountability and assessment, which Superintendent Woods has indicated is a priority of his. And I would also point out, Keith mentioned this about eSplosh in response to a question that Mandy posed, but we've begun the initial planning for eSplosh 6. I'm going to be sharing with Phil and Keith and Santana a preliminary list of individuals that would comprise the eSplosh community group. And a lot of those individuals have been a part of other efforts in the past, but we're going to move from there. And then I will say that now that the runoff election is behind us, I had conversations prior to the runoff with Ms. Willingham, and she indicated that she'll be sharing the timeline for the eSplosh 6 after she got past Tuesday. So I'll be following up with her soon on that. Lastly, if you will indulge me, I've prepared some remarks that I'd like to read and share with our board and those here in our general viewing audience. As you know, several metropolitan Atlanta school districts, fairly or unfairly, have been in the news for what has been characterized as extreme violence in the form of severe fights, to include group altercations, knives, and handguns violations. As I've repeatedly stated in the past, no school district is immune from such disciplinary incidents, as schools are microcosms of the larger society. And of course, Rockdale County Public Schools is not immune from this either. In reviewing our RCPS disciplinary data that compares specific disciplinary incidents from roughly August 1st to December 5th from the 2020-2021 school year, last fall of last school year, and to that same time period in the current school year, the data show that there has been a definite decrease in weapons infractions involving knives, specifically a 45% decrease. And there has also been a definite decrease in group altercations, 72% decrease. Also, there has been no increase in firearm possession. Last school year during the fall semester, during that period of time of August 1st to December 5th, there was one firearm that was found that was confiscated at one of our high schools. About a week and a half ago, there was an unloaded handgun that was discovered and secured at one of our elementary schools. So there has not been obviously an increase. Obviously, the details of those two situations have some distinctions, but I will share with you that, of course, having firearms or being in possession of firearms on school grounds by unauthorized personnel constitute a violation of law, and they would run afoul of disciplinary code of conduct as well. One of the things I'd like to share in relation to this before I continue and share some more of our data is that when there are such infractions of this nature, I work very closely with our communications department and Cindy and her team to make sure that the appropriate communications go out to the relevant and appropriate audiences, target audiences. And I understand and realize that human nature is such that sometimes individuals want more information or they seek that out. Please understand that notwithstanding our commitment to following the full parameters of law and relevant guidance in communicating to our school communities and other target audiences information of this nature, we still have the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, more commonly known as FERPA, that of course affords parents the right to access their students' records, the right to seek to have certain records amended, and the right to exert some control over the disclosure of potentially personally identifiable information from their students' education records, which among other things would include disciplinary records. So please understand that we are 100% transparent to the fullest extent of the law when it comes to these matters, and we always have been. And I want that to be clear. Sometimes people will think that total disclosure is less than total disclosure is not total transparency, and that simply is not the case where law is concerned and where we have to follow the law. But we're as transparent as we can be within the parameters of the law. In continuing with our disciplinary data, there has been an overall increase in disciplinary incidents, 36%, that's driven largely by nonviolent disciplinary infractions such as skipping, leaving school without permission, tardiness, and some drug-related offenses. There has also been an increase in conventional fights, not group altercations, which was a specific target last year, but conventional fights, 20% increase, disproportionately impacted by an increase at the middle school level, as our elementary school level remains relatively stable, and our high schools have actually seen an overall decrease in fights for the comparative time period of August 1st to December 5th for 2021-22 and now 22-23. However, it is, and I would also share this, our high priority discipline has increased 30%. However, it is important to share that I approved for our Office of School Safety to revise our high priority discipline criteria effective this current school year so that it accurately reflects the nature of a given infraction. The revisions I approved increased the number of disciplinary infractions deemed as high priority discipline, which all but guaranteed that there would be an initial increase in high priority discipline for this current school year under the revised criteria. And this information I will be sharing the relevant disciplinary data information in the board brief to our board. Our safety enhancement measures have been effective in providing greater reassurance to our students and staff. And I know this because I've convened two student advisory council at the elementary, middle, and high school level already this first semester. And I've certainly had conversations with assistant superintendents and directly with teachers. Specifically, the clear book bags and open gate weapons detection system have had an apparent impact on driving down weapons-related disciplinary infractions. Anecdotally, principals have reported that the presence of the school safety attendants has increased overall supervision of our schools. What I am most pleased with is that our first semester data show that there has been a clear reduction in disciplinary incidents that significantly compromises students and staff safety, specifically knives, guns, and group altercations. And I shared with you the reduction in those indicators a few moments ago. To be clear, we have more work to do in reducing conventional fights, particularly at our middle schools, as well as nonviolent disciplinary infractions, primarily at our secondary schools. So I thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for that indulgence on our board, and I'll entertain any questions that I can at this time.
Any questions for Dr. Oates? Thank you, Dr. Oates. Next on our agenda is the information section, just letting you guys know to review those items. There's 5 items there, review those on Assembly. And then we have a recess. Is there a need for a recess?
Can I?
Sure.
Can I step back 1 second?
Absolutely.
Dr. Oates, I'm so sorry.
No, that's good.
What does collaboration look like with you and the surrounding counties? Because the violence is not, like you said, it's not localized to here. It is coming. Can you hear me? Sorry. It's coming from around us into our community. Are you guys collaborating, and what does that look like?
I appreciate the question from Board Member Duncan. And the question is, are we collaborating regionally within Metro and even across the state? And the answer is yes. One of the things I'll share, you heard me mention our open gate weapons detection system. We have several school districts that are scheduled or either already have observed our use of open gate because they've heard about it. We've communicated, I've communicated as we've gone around the state. And I do know that as far away as Central Georgia, right, Phil, to include, Athens, Clark, Bibb County, and there are some other districts in Metro Atlanta that now are considering. I do know that Gwinnett is also considering such a system. I've not had direct conversations with Dr. Watts, my colleague there, but we're all a part of Metro RESA, and we have a communication structure within Metro RESA. So yes, we are collaborating. There are even at our recent annual Winter GSBA GSSA conference, we had an opportunity to really get together socially, but also engage in some of our common challenges. So yes, there's quite a bit of collaboration. And one thing I would also add is that I'm on the GSBA Superintendent's Advisory Council, and they've asked that we share with them any safety enhancement measures that we've implemented so that they can be an arbiter for us to push that information out statewide. So I do appreciate that question.
Okay, if there's not a need for a recess, we'll move on to item 7 on our agenda, and that is to review the pending minutes. We'll be voting on the approval of the minutes at our next meeting. There is no old business and there is no new business. There's been some action items presented tonight, and there's also the Personnel and Human Resources item 10 that we've presented. Is there anyone that feels a need for a consent agenda? Five. I have a motion.
A second.
I have a motion and second to vote with these on a consent agenda next week. All in favor, raise your hands, please. Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Chairwoman, if I might, I did this, when there's that rare instance in which a board member's birthday falls on the board meeting, I feel incumbent upon me to acknowledge that I did that in Jim's absence. He was away celebrating his birthday. And we have our most tenured member of our board, Wells Barksdale. His birthday is today. We've extended birthday greetings to him all day. And he's not with us, but we'd like to hope that he's enjoying his birthday. And he probably is, since he's not here. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's no board discussion, but there is a need for executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel?
So moved. Second, Heather.
I have a motion and second to go into executive session. All in favor, raise your hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. At the end of this, we'll come back into open session.
We can go to our more proximate location.
In here. The board has come back into open session at 6:25. Do I hear a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint Tammy Smith as the interim principal of Lorraine Elementary School effective February 1st, 2023, due to the mid-year retirement of the current principal, Susan Norton?
So moved, Heather.
Second, Akita.
I have a motion and second. All in favor, raise your hand, please. Motion carries unanimously. With no further business to discuss, do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second, Heather.
Motion and second. All in favor, raise your hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. The meeting is adjourned. Good night.
Yeah, one more stuff.